Hey guys, welcome to my first look video on Audi's recently facelifted RS Q8 and their brand new RS Q8 performance behind me. This is a peculiar place to be doing any kind of video. I must admit, I'm in the south of Spain. It's 35 degrees, so my feet are loving it. I'm sure the cars look very good with the water and that backdrop. The pre-facelift car has always been a favourite of mine. I've said in the past that it's literally like the ultimate road tripping car. It does everything you can imagine and is very, very close to the wonderful RS6. In fact, underneath the skin, they share a lot of components, including the engine. They're comfortable, they're practical, and if you get one in the right spec, like this Daytona Grey, well, they kind of fly under the radar. And although they're very similar to Lamborghini's Urus, they are as tasteful as the Urus is tasteless, if that makes sense. I don't have confirmed UK pricing yet, or even if they are going to get the regular RS Q8 and the performance, they might just choose to have the performance like they do with the RS6. But I'm going to hazard a guess that they're going to be about 130 odd thousand pounds. Maybe the performance would be 140, 145. In terms of updates over the outgoing RS Q8, well, because it's a facelift, it's not completely new. So let's start around the front. As you can see, it is dominated by a grille. I always say, how come BMW get all the grief with their grilles and Audi don't? Because 90% of the front end of this car is now grille, but it does look really good. There's plenty of air intakes because this engine needs it. And the headlights have also got 5 different daylight running options. So similar to the recently updated S3 that I put on the channel, you can now have your daylight runners in various different options, which I think is pretty cool. And you might as well utilize the wonderful matrix LED functions because there is so much technology in these headlight units nowadays, it's unbelievable. This particular car is fitted with, I think they call it the black pack. So essentially all of these trims around the grille, the door mirrors, the diffuser around the back are all in a contrasting black colour, which looks really good against this Daytona Grey. The RS Q8 Performance behind me, which is chili red, one of the new colours, that has the matte carbon pack on it, which actually looks really good as well. But we'll check that out shortly. When we get along the side of the car, we've got new 23-inch wheels. The RS Q8 was actually launched 4 or 5 years ago with 23-inch wheels. That was the first time I've ever seen such big wheels on a road car, and that trend continues with this. But I really like that wheel design. It's hard for manufacturers these days to produce wheels that look like that or look like those wonderful ones on the performance behind, because they're always chasing aero, and aero looks ugly on wheels, but these ones don't. They look really good. When we get around the back of the car, we'll find a revised rear diffuser with a little reflector in the middle. It almost looks like a rain light on an F1 car. The rear light units are also completely new. They're OLED units and they look really smart. So I think overall, there have been some subtle changes, but it has made the RS Q8 look more modern and maybe a little bit more aggressive. It's a car, like I said at the start, that I've always liked, and now I think it is a little bit better. We can't walk away without talking about the engine. Well, it's the familiar 4-litre V8 twin turbo, produces 600 horsepower, so there's no change there, and 800 newton meters of torque. All of that is fed through the ZF 8-speed automatic gearbox and goes to the ground via Audi's all-wheel drive quattro system. They claim that this beast will do the 0 to 62 sprint in just 3.8 seconds, which does beg the question, why do we need a performance model? Let's go and have a look. Just like Audi Sport did with the RS6, adding performance, quite literally, they've decided to do that with the RS Q8. As I kind of teased upon over there, I didn't think it actually needed it, but I'm sure and confident that it is going to be better because of it. So what have they done? That 4-litre V8 twin turbo now produces 640 horsepower, so 40 horsepower hike over the regular car. It also produces 850 newton meters of torque, so again, that's up 50 newton meters, and they've managed to strip away a little bit of weight. So these beautiful 5Y 23-inch forged alloy wheels, which are modelled on the ones that you get on the RS6 Performance, well, they save about 5 kilos per corner, which is unsprung mass. So I'm sure that's going to help in terms of handling and feel. It also comes standard with the carbon ceramic brakes, which are a chunk lighter than the steels. They've also removed some of the sound deadening from the interior, and that's for two reasons. Number one is we get to hear more of that wonderful 4-litre V8 induction sound. And number two, sound insulation weighs a lot, so that is going to further reduce the overall weight of this car. So when you combine that extra power and torque and the reduction in weight, this car now has a claimed 0 to 62 figure of 3.6 seconds, which is frankly ridiculous, and I can't wait to try one on the road. As we talked about over there, this has the matte carbon exterior trim, which actually looks really good. Once again, it's really classy compared to what Lamborghini offer on their cars, which looks like something out of a 1990s kitchen. So big thumbs up from me. I like that, especially on the door mirrors when you get around the back end of the car. It's just a classy looking thing. Chili red is one of the new colours. The other new colours are Sakir gold, Carrera white, and Ascari blue. I love Ascari blue. I had an RS7 Performance earlier this year in Ascari blue. It's one of my favourite colours, and I think if I had the money and was in the market to get an RS Q8 Performance, I'd have it in Ascari blue, and I would have the matte carbon trim. Aside from a few tweaks to the ECU to compensate for the extra power and torque, this performance version doesn't have any tweaks to the suspension or the chassis. That's probably not a bad thing though, because the regular car, at least in pre-facelift form, did seem to handle and ride really, really well. I'm going to go and dry my feet, and then we'll have a quick look inside and see if there's been any changes in the cabin. Jumping inside, it seems that there haven't really been any updates. This has, I think they call it the RS design package, which I'm not sure we're getting in the UK. I think it just consists of a lot of Alcantara everywhere, Alcantara on the wheel, and contrasting red on the seats to go with the red paintwork. I think you can go with blue as well, and maybe there's some other options. This also has a lovely Bang & Olufsen sound system with these little tweeters that do look very expensive, and I'm sure they are, but everything else is just standard. So we've got this very familiar dashboard layout that's been around for must be 5, 6 or 7 years now. We've got the virtual cockpit. It all does a reasonably good job, but it is starting to look a little bit dated in my opinion. Seats, well, they haven't changed apart from the red stitching and contrast as we just talked about. They're relatively comfortable. I do feel like I'm sitting a little bit too high, and in fact my head is less than an inch off that headlining, and I'm sitting as low as I can. I'm guessing that this panoramic glass roof probably isn't helping, because that usually eats into the headlining space a little bit. But all in all, I think it does a very good job, and it's the sort of car that if I had 2 kids and I won the lottery, I think this would be the car of choice to take me down to my house in the south of France and have a bit of fun along the way. I guess the last thing to do is to give it a little rev and see what it sounds like. I'll press my RS button here. That brings up RS1. Let's go to RS2. Oh, we've got a new dial. Okay, so that's different. They've updated the virtual cockpit. I really like that. We've got a rev counter around the outside and speed in the middle. That is reminiscent of this slightly older RS virtual cockpit, and that's what I miss. So I'm glad to see that that is back. Let's see if it has a soft limiter. It does have a soft limiter, but it's at 4,000 RPM as opposed to about 3.5, I think, with the older pre-facelift RS Q8. Sounds pretty good from in here. Let's finish with what it sounds like on the outside.